Okay, so you might have heard Ed talk in another one of our videos about changing the conversation. And we like to kind of stretch that out a little bit and kind of give you some more meat on the bone with that, because it's one of our main topics, one of our main core principles about changing the conversation. And kind of my take on that is that it's much easier to change the conversation with a client than it is to do what you're used to doing, which is kind of selling design and showing your portfolio. I mean, I'm not proud of this, but I actually put a client to sleep one time showing them my portfolio.
I've never been there.
He wasn't the only person in the room. It was a committee that was making a decision. Needless to say, I did not get the project, but there were maybe 5 or 6 people in the room, and they did ask to see our work, so I guess I went overboard. Anyway, I showed a lot of our work, and the client, one of them, fell asleep. So at any rate, changing the conversation has to do with talking about things that clients actually want to hear about. And sometimes it's not necessarily what you did for other people. Yeah. They want to hear about them. They want to hear about their challenges, you know, what they're doing, and how it affects their company, and how their sales can be better, or their reputation can be better, or their internal challenges can be better, or whatever their problem is.
Yeah, and it's typically not a conversation they normally get from a graphic design company.
Exactly, exactly. So if you can change that conversation so that you're telling them about how you can help them, and again, it's how branding can help them. Right. So it's not bragging. And if you're learning how to specialize in branding, you are learning about how branding can help them, and you know these things, so it's really interesting for you to talk about as well. And when we're talking about changing that conversation about how branding can help the client, where was I going with that again? I lost my train of thought again. It's really important. Oh, I know. You can make it personal to their situation. So when you're, a lot of times a client will come to you with a challenge that they have. And here's where you can bring in the branding conversation without just saying, I'm going to go and I'm going to pitch branding to someone, and I'm going to say, you know, you need branding. Branding is something that almost fits into any conversation that you're having with a client, whether you bring it up or whether they bring it up. So, for instance, if somebody asks you, you know, what you do or what you specialize in, it's very easy for you to say, well, you know, I help clients with branding, and it helps their reputation in the marketplace, and, you know, go on that tack. But if they come to you, which is sometimes what happens, is a client may call you in to do a particular project with them, whether it's a brochure or a website or whatever. If you can back up a little bit and ask them what their objective is, a lot of times they haven't really thought it all the way through. We think our clients know what they want and what they're doing, and sometimes they really are not wanting the right thing, and sometimes they haven't put enough thought into it to really know what they want. So Ed and I kind of have this little phrase that we use that, you know, it's kind of become a joke between us, but it's not really a joke, because it really does help clients when you ask them, okay, say they came to you for a brochure, and you say to them, well, you know, what's your objective? What are you going to try to get to? You have a few conversations about that. Again, changing the conversation instead of just taking your clipboard and say, okay, what size do you want that brochure? Or what was it going to be on? Do you have the photographs? Who's going to write the copy?
It's like a short order thing.
Yeah, instead of just taking down the information, you start asking them questions about it. Then you find out there's a bigger problem.
That's right.
There's some objective that they're trying to reach that, you know, the graphic design or a brochure maybe isn't the right approach. So what Ed and I have come to say at that point is, and this isn't a gimmick, but it really works.
Yeah, simple.
If you just say to them, that sounds like a branding problem to me. 9 times out of 10 it is.
Well, sure. And it's not, you know, we're not like blowing smoke. There really is, because I know when I meet people for the first time, and again, this would be in a networking situation, I get them talking about their company, and then I get asking them questions, and then you go on, and then you're looking at them and you're saying, you know, that's a branding problem.
That's a branding problem.
And they'll look at you and they're like a revelation, oh, like they just had an epiphany. And they're like, a branding problem? So really, I said, yeah, like Marcia had a situation where one person in the company insisted it was a sales problem.
Exactly.
And Marcia came back with, no, it's not a sales problem at all, it's a branding problem. Now, once she explained it to them, they got it, they actually got it. But it's a situation that they're not used to the conversation about branding. They're used to the conversation about sales, they're used to the conversation about regular running a business, because that's what they do on a day-to-day basis. So we're bringing something to the table that they've never heard before, and they're absolutely enamored by what we say and what we're talking about. And that's what I love about it, is that we're bringing new information to the table. They're used to talking to graphic designers and marketing people and advertising agencies and all this sort of thing about that topic, but they're never talking about their brand, their reputation, their perception in the marketplace. And that's becoming more and more important to them, and we're there to help you take that to your customers as a solution, something that I can assure you is not in your marketplace right now. So if you do this, if you do become a certified branding expert, you'll be distinguishing yourself quite nicely in your market.
Yeah, yeah. And what's so wonderful about it is when you do change the conversation and when you do say things to your clients like, well, that sounds like a branding problem. The wonderful thing about it is they want to know more. They'll say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, can you explain it? And so they're asking you for information instead of you feeling like you're pushing information on them. That pushy, icky, salesy thing goes completely away because now you're instructing, you're educating, because they've asked for it, which is so wonderful. It's such a relief to be able to sell in this way rather than feeling like, oh no, I've got it. If the answer was it's a design solution, which usually it's not, design is part of the solution, but clients can't see how design can help as much as they can see how branding can help. Design is part of the branding solution, but it can never capture the whole answer, at least to the client, as much as branding can. Because to us, branding equals reputation. And when you explain that to the client, that brand can really further their reputation in the marketplace, they get it. They just get it.
And if they're selling their company, or if they're just trying to raise sales, or to motivate the staff, there's all these goals for branding. And the fact that they're not always sales goals, again, benefits you, the designer, in your knowledge and your strategy, that they love this sort of thing. And you yourself will probably, like when you ask that question or make that statement, that's a branding problem. Let's face it, you are chuckling inside a little bit because it's such a simple premise. But they really enjoy it. They love to be educated. They're glad that you're showing them something they've never heard before. I mean, even when I talk about personal branding online and doing things like blogging and things to raise their personal brands, they're enamored by that. They've never heard this stuff before. They want to hear more. Can you come by my office and tell me more about this? And I personally had that happen recently in November. I was at an event, a mold expo of all things, where they sell molds for making cars, and he wanted to know more about. The person came by my booth. I was just selling branding, not a big deal, but he wanted to know more. He wanted to know what was my approach on email marketing, and I told him, and he was really happy with what he heard. He wanted to hear more. So he's, like Marcia said, he's inviting you in.
They want to hear more.
They want to hear more because they've never heard it before.
Right.
So that's why we think you'll absolutely see the value in our workshop and what we're trying to accomplish in the graphic design industry.
Yeah, yeah. It's selling the easy way. It really is. It's selling with a twist when you can change that conversation and people are asking you for information, because most of the time people are kind of backing away from you because they're afraid you're going to try to sell something, whereas when you're educating them, of course you hope they'll buy from you, but the education is so much fun and it makes so much more of an impression on them anyway, that even if they don't buy from you right then, they're going to remember you, you're going to stand out, they may refer you to someone else, and you don't go home thinking, ooh, I just feel icky and dirty because I pushed myself on someone.
You don't want to creep them out.
Right.
And that's the way I look at it too. I don't like to think of myself as selling. When I'm out there pushing this stuff, I I engage them in the conversation to educate them, to show them what I know and what they should know. And they like that honesty, you know, and I've had that happen a number of times, I mean, even recently, really, where I pitched our process to a customer. This was in the end of November, and loved what he heard. He wanted to hear more, and he said, I got a situation though, Ed. And he says, I just fired my salesman, and I don't expect to get another one until January. I want your honest opinion. Should we do the process now, or should we wait till I get my sales guy in line? And I thought to myself, well, I wouldn't mind the cash right now. But I had to be honest with the guy. And I said, listen, as far as I'm concerned, sales is an integral part of a brand team and a brand process. I need sales there. I need their opinion. So to be honest with you, Rick, I'd wait. I'd wait until I get that salesman in place and make him part of the team, make him part of the solution.
Right.
Because later on, when he comes on board after the fact, he's going to want to make a name for himself, and he's going to change things just to change them.
Exactly.
And the customer
That's worse.
Yes, and the customer will have to listen because he just hired them and he wanted to show their trust. So, but I think he appreciated the honest approach, that I was willing to, put it off. And our director Mark will attest. I got an email today telling me that everything's on track.
Oh, good.
He's talking to a new guy, and
Good.
but he doesn't expect to see them online until February, and then we'll decide at that time to move
So the
forward.
sale didn't happen right away,
No.
but the conversation is still happening.
It's still happening. It's still going on, and he's still very positive about the whole thing. And this is a month and a half out from the initial presentation,
Mm-hmm.
so that shows you how powerful it was. And that's the game we're playing here, is that it's a long-term strategy for us in selling it to our customers, but it's also a long-term strategy for our customers to benefit from.